Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. Today we are working on the hardtop for Michael's car and all of the associated stuff that goes along with that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fit the top on the car, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to tighten up all the windshield bolts once we have the angle of the windshield correct. We're going to go ahead and we are going to finish off the windshield trim plates. And after that, it's a free-for-all. We may go and start putting in the louver on the passenger side of the vehicle. We will probably put the front splash shields in. We're getting dangerously close to getting this thing complete. And who knows what else. So stay tuned. Alright, everybody, what I did, the first thing, one of the first things I did this morning was I got some help and I fit the hardtop onto Michael's car. And what I did is I put some terry cloth rags down on the body so that we wouldn't scratch anything. And then I put some of the associated hardware together. So all I really did was I put together the front clips. They clipped under the sun visor brackets in the front. And that determines our angle of attack as far as the windshield goes. So once we had those brackets in place, I maneuvered the top around until the back of the top was at this point right here. So the front edge of the hardtop needs to be right here. And then there's a portion that kind of sticks in this way that allows the side curtains to go on. And if you notice, I already have the hardware in here to mount the back of the top as well. So I put those in. After I pulled it off the car, what I had to do was I actually had to clearance the holes a little bit more on the back of the top. Although we clearanced these at Miller's for the roll bars, we mistakenly did not account for the roll bar trims. And so these holes right here had to be opened up just a little bit more. So I opened both of those up, and then I went back in here and I touched them up with some black paint. And then I went ahead and I started putting all of this soft molding that goes on here. It's a like a weather shield or a weather stripping. So I got all that in place, and then fit the hardtop onto the car one more time so that I could make sure that I got all of the pull downs for the rear adjusted properly. And they're really close. They're not hard to adjust. Basically this little clipper doodle right down here, it spins and it threads in or out, and that adjusts how tight the top comes down onto the body. So we got that all fit up, and then I will go ahead and I will insert a couple of pictures right here, because there was a lot of cussing going on. Whenever you're dealing with finished paint and trying to fit stuff without scratching that finished paint, tends to get a little hot. And so I didn't want to film any of that because it needed my full attention. So I'll insert a couple of pictures here. All right, music update. Aerosmith, All Your Love. So, after we've got the hardtop on the car, I went ahead and I tightened all the windshield bolts so that the windshield is held in place. It's right where it's going to stay. And then we pulled the hardtop back off of the car, and it's over on the back of the F350 workbench right now. And I spent the rest of the afternoon working on all of the other associated stuff that needs to be done on the car. In the last video, I think I showed that we finished up the door trim. I went ahead and I put the windshield trims in. I mean, they were already in, they were setting on the body, but they hadn't been fastened in place. And so what I did is I went ahead and I put those in with the screws. I made sure that the gaskets were in where they needed to be. I wanted the windshield trim to be as far out that it could be to the outside of the car, and I tried to get it as straight as possible because the windshield frame does not necessarily sit perpendicular to the car, and so it can be kind of at an angle. And so a lot of times I'll make up some of that that difference with the windshield trim and make it, you know, look straight. So got those in on both sides. Now I did run into issue on the other side. On this side it wasn't a big deal. I had fiberglass behind it to get it to go in. But on the other side, it was a different story. The windshield had been hogged out, the slot in it, in the body, had been hogged out previously by whoever built the car originally. And so there was just nothing in here for that screw to get a bite on. And so what I did is I took a longer screw. So this is a longer screw, same type, stainless steel, oval head. This one is about 1.25 inches long. And then on the underside of the body, I have these speed nuts. And these speed nuts will get right up next to that windshield post and then come up and just catch the fiberglass and allow that trim, the windshield trim, to have something to bite to. And so those went in, the one on this side went in like that. And I've done this on a couple cars. We don't seem to have callbacks or issues with these, so I'm assuming that they're all working just fine. There's really no other way that I can think of to take care of something like that in this instance. Generally, when I do a body, I don't trim those holes for the windshield out that big. I mean, granted, the windshield trim will cover a lot, but you still need something to fasten that to, and if you don't, then it's just going to float there. So other things that I worked on this afternoon were putting the louver in on this side. And I did it very much the same as I did the other side. I applied some silicone to those L brackets that we installed on those a couple of weeks ago. And then I foil taped them to the inside of the body. And we'll let those set probably overnight, and then they'll be all done. The only difference on this one versus the other side is the body was a little bit, I don't know how to explain it, it was a little bit out of shape. And so what I ended up doing is I've got my my vice grip quick grip clamps in there, and then I've got a block backing it right now, and I'm just putting enough tension on that clamp to hold that tight against the body. All I'm doing is I'm waiting for that silicone to dry overnight, and then it should be fine. So, I mean, it was holding in there with just the tape, but I thought it just needed a little bit more in order for it to fit the way I wanted it to. So that's what I did on those. And I've done that in the past, and everything seems to work. So we'll see how that goes. So tomorrow, I'm going to make a run to one of our specialty hardware stores, and I'm going to pick up some hardware for the header to the side pipe transition. I need the bolts, the stainless steel bolts, because the ones that were on Michael's car weren't the stainless steel ones. They were just generic steel bolts. They had rusted, and so there was no reusing those to start with. And I've just got standard hardware in there now, and I'd like locking hardware. So I'm going to pick up some wave nuts as well. And then those wave nuts will go in, and the last thread on a wave nut, if you didn't know, it just has a little wave on it, and that's what keeps it from backing off. They're kind of a one-time use thing. You can reuse them and the bolts once you get into the bigger sizes of the bolts, and they don't deform the threads as much as they do on the smaller hardware. So I will go pick those up tomorrow, and I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow night. All right, music update. Black Crows, she talks to angels. So it's been overnight. I let the silicone dry on the passenger side louver, and so it's all in. and looking fine. And you can see it's nice and secure in there. Doesn't move anywhere. And so what I worked on after that was hardware. I picked up some hardware this morning for the side pipes. Basically, I replaced the standard hex nuts that I had in here with the stainless steel cap head screws that Factory 5 normally supplies with their side pipes. Remember, these side pipes came with the car and they had the wrong hardware on them to begin with. So this is not a Factory 5 issue. This is a previous builder issue. And you can see the squeeze out of the copper RTV. It's funny, they call it copper, but it's actually red. So that's done on this side. And I think what I'm going to move on to is I'm going to move on to the splash shields. So I've got all of the rivet holes in the panel here. I've pre-drilled all the rivet holes in the other panel. Actually, the other panel had the holes, and I pre-drilled these because the F panels are brand new. So I'm going to put those on. I've already spent some time the last day or two when I've had a spare moment putting the bulb seal on these. So these are all ready to go. Remember, we cleaned these all up. We took a Scotch-Brite and some window cleaner, and we put some grain back in them so they look nice. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to put this splash shield in, and this one has a recess in it for our master cylinder. I went ahead, I checked the master cylinder and made sure it was topped off. It is accessible, it's just not easily accessible to get in there to fill that. So I took care of that. Same thing over here. We've taken care of all of the bolts for the side pipes, and so that is all ready to go. The Beach Boys. Be true to your school. All right, on this side, and I'm going to show you this side as an example. The panel is all in. And then if you look up here, I ran the bulb seal just short of the transition to the F panel up here. If you don't do that, then you end up with the bottom portion of the bulb seal stuck in between the two panels, and they don't come together really nice. So this amount of gap in here isn't a huge deal. You can, if you want, you can, stuff a piece of bulb seal in there, or you can cut off the bottom part of the bulb seal, the actual retaining part of it, the clip, and then just run the bulb seal over the top. But I've never found a reason to do that, so that's the way I do this. And then what you're looking for is just to seal up any of that air that's going to be coming through all the way down to the bottom. And then, of course, at the bottom, you're going to cut it right here, even with the end of the body. Now, from Factory 5, these splash shields come with a lip on the bottom that has a 90-degree break or a 90-degree turn on the bottom that creates a tab that you can use to fasten your panel to. I don't know why whoever built this car in the beginning decided they needed to cut that tab off, but it was no longer here. So what I did is I took a piece just like this. I bent a 90-degree bend on it, about an inch in, and then I fastened it here and here to the panel. And then on the bottom, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, there's one single black rivet right here. I've got some compound here from Miller, wet sanding and buffing out the car. So anyways, there's a rivet right there. And that just keeps this panel in place so it doesn't move back and it doesn't move forward. If you're having trouble with your side pipes hitting your body and you're wondering why the factory cutouts don't fit, sometimes you have to massage the factory cutouts a little bit. This particular car has been through paint twice. We went through the process of leveling the side pipes this time around. Whoever put the engine in initially didn't do that, and so the side pipe was lower on one side than it was on the other. And even though you can't view both sides of the car at the same time, what that means is that one side of the car is going to, you know, be more subject to speed bumps or ruts in the road or whatever because the side pipe is hanging lower. So you want to keep them as close to the same height as you possibly can. So we went through that process, and when we took this back the second time, this is the second time that Miller's painted this particular car, we did have to clearance the passenger side right here. And that was because this was the side that was hanging low. No one had ever bothered to level the engine, meaning they probably leveled the engine so the engine was level, but they didn't level the ends of the headers. And so by doing that, we were able to keep both side pipes at the same height. So the other thing is that until you put this panel in right here, you're not going to know exactly where the body is going to be, because this panel actually pushes this part of the body out. A lot of people like to trim this panel, and you don't need to. The panel is actually designed to push this panel out a little bit, and that will also create more room here at the side pipe. So keep that in mind when you start to pre-fit all this stuff, that if you're pre-fitting it without these panels in, that gap around the side pipes isn't going to be what it's going to be when you put it in for the final time, unless you're going to just start hacking away at the splash panels, which I don't like to do. These had been cut quite a bit, especially at the top, and I never understand why guys first go in and start trimming everything before they've got the body set in the final spot, but whatever. So this side is all wrapped up and done. I'm going to move on to the other side. Don't know if I'm going to bring you back for that, but I guess we'll find out. All right, I wanted to point out that before you put your panels on, these splash panels, is the time to make sure that you've got everything done in the area that you're going to be covering. So for instance, you know, we did this offset bracket for our master cylinder. I know it's tight, but I went ahead and checked the nuts on it anyway to make sure it was good and secure. The clutch cable bracket that we did up here, I made sure that you know, hasn't moved. It's all in good shape. The universal joints for the steering, this is the last chance you're going to have to really get to those. I know we Loctited these when we installed them, put thread locker on them, but I checked them anyway. Your O2 sensor bung, you know, if you're running a Sniper or you're running Phytech or one of those, you're only going to use one side. So, you know, whatever side you didn't use, do you have a bung cover in there so that you're not going to be putting exhaust underneath the body? So all of these things you're going to want to make sure that you've got taken care of. You know, do you need to add a strap onto your harness as it goes out into the front of the car? All these kind of things. Take a minute, look in the area, and make sure that everything in here is done. You don't have to go back and get any of this, because especially with one of these mod motors, I mean, you can see just how close that engine comes to everything. I mean, the booster's only 2-3 inches away, you know? So make sure that you've got all this taken care of before you put these panels in. Now, granted, this panel is not hard to get out. What is it? Maybe a dozen rivets down there, and then we're going to have one here in the bottom that'll have to come out to get this out. So if you do, God forbid, have to get in here, it's not the end of the world. But it's a really good time to make sure that you've got everything taken care of in there that you need to take care of. Same thing on the other side. Oh, here you go. I don't know who, you know, Maniac built this car. There were just holes in the chassis everywhere. And so what we did is we went ahead and wherever there were holes in the chassis, we went ahead and cleaned out the holes. And then we put black pop rivets in place. So even the one up on top here, it looked like this one may have been a ground at one time because someone scraped away the paint. And then there's one over here. I mean, they're just everywhere. There's another one over here. So I wanted to make sure that I had all of those taken care of and covered up before I put that panel on. So, you know, what should have been, you know, a 5-10 minute project to just throw that panel back on turned into a big deal because I had to take care of all that stuff before I put that panel on, because this is the last chance to get to it. So there you go. All right, music update. we got the Black Crows, Josephine. All right, so the pool noodle trick for the wheels. You're going to take your center. Now, these are not factory 5 wheels. These are Team 3, but very much the same. The only difference that I know of is that right here is beveled on the Team 3 wheels. I think that's a square shoulder on the factory 5s. So this is going to go in first. You're going to put that in the wheel like that. Make sure it seats all the way in. Take your scrap pool noodle. Notice this is the piece that I used on Michael's car that didn't fit. This is the tapered end. So I'm using up the ends of it. You're going to put that into here. And then you're going to mark it with your finger where you're kind of snug up against the hub. And then you're just going to cut it right here. So hang on and I'll cut that. All right, so here we go, all cut. That's going to go in the back like so. And then as you put the wheel in, that's going to push up against that hub and keep it to where you're not going to have to worry about it pushing back every time you try to slide the tri-spinner on. It basically just goes up against the hub here and holds that center hub of the wheel out so that you can spin the tri-spinner on. There you go. Now you'll notice I can push on this, and with that pool noodle behind there, it just keeps wanting to pop out. That'll keep it in place while you get your cover on, your lug cover. Get your lug cover in place, and then put your tri-spinner on, and you'll be all set. Now I will say that the front studs, wheel studs, were extremely long on the front of Michael's car. One of the reasons were that they were running dual spacers. They had a 1/2-inch spacer and a 1/4-inch spacer on his previous wheels. I don't know why they had so much spacer, because I didn't see the wheels contacting the caliper. However, with these Team 3 wheels, we do have an issue with the wheels contacting the calipers, and so we are running a 1/4-inch spacer. But it still puts it within the boundaries of where I feel comfortable with the wheel on the front fender. So I did have to cut the little, oh, it's not even threaded, portion of the studs off. And you can see that I went ahead and I cleaned up the edges of them too, so they're all nice and neat now. I'm trying to find one of those pieces that I cut off, but just my luck, they all probably went on the floor and I can't see any of them right now. So, oh, here's one. They're under the wheel. So here's a portion of what I cut off. And then I just went around them with the flap disc and cleaned them up on the edges so that the lugs would go back on. I actually had the lugs threaded on, the lug nuts, and then cut them, cleaned them, and then pulled the lug nuts off so that if I did booger up any threads, that I would clean them out as I pulled the lug nuts off. So we're all good over here. I'm going to go ahead and lower the front of the car down, and then I'm going to torque the lug nuts on the wheels for the front, and then they'll be ready for the lug covers and the tri-spinners. Candle box, cover me. All right. Other than a good cleaning and polishing, you know, a final detail, Michael's car's pretty much done. The wind wings were some of the last things to go on. We're going to go around. We're going to check all of the body panel fitment. This door is not bad. Once we got everything put together, it has nice even gaps around it. The panels, you know, come together nice. It didn't move a whole lot, but I will tell you that when we first got the car back, the body was really high right here, and now it's started to come down. It's really starting to look like it's supposed to. And what that means is certain body fasteners, like this one for instance, is loose now. So we're going to go back and we're going to tighten those up. The The body fasteners on the other side are still tight, meaning they're nice and snug. The problem here is that this gap right here at the bottom of the door is now the door's in and the panel's out. So we're going to push that out a little bit. That may have something to do with the pool noodle being in here. It does provide a little bit of pressure against the body, and it will push it out just a little bit. But other than that, I think now it's just a matter of going around and finishing everything up. The wheels are all finished up. Again, they just need to be cleaned really good. I'm not a fan of the raised white letters because when you put tire dressing on it, it seems to just turn them all like this. And not my gig. Spinners are on the front as well. But if you look around, I mean, I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but you know, there's fingerprints on everything. So we're going to go through, and even though I just took the paper off of the wind wings, you know, it's inevitable. You touch them with your hands, and you get fingerprints on them. I think I'm going to do the same treatment to the rear bumper. I'm just going to take a soap pad. I'm going to clean it up, just get all of the surface yuck off of there, and then that'll be all ready to go. The car is really looking nice. Short of a good cleaning, I think we're pretty much done with Michael's car now. I don't think this will be the last video it's in. I've still got probably another week's worth of little odds and ends around the car to take care of. But for the most part, it's done. The headlight panel still needs to go back in. The fuse panel needs to go up under the dash. The battery needs to be put on a charger because honestly, it hasn't been plugged into the charger for the last 2 weeks. And just a general, you know, once over, and then some cleaning and polishing. So with that, I want to thank you guys all for watching. If you're enjoying the content here, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, and all that good stuff. We'll see you all next time. Have a great day.